now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What a lovely introduction and an enthusiastic introduction. Wonderful. Tom, do you have the slides? Can you progress?
Hold on, man. Let me share the screen.
Because yeah, we've got like the way we planned it was we've got about half an hour of me talking mainly, and then at least 15 minutes. I'll stay on longer if people have got time. Obviously, that's fine. To have questions as long as you want to talk, and we can talk afterwards as well.
Dan, I hope it doesn't tell me. Yeah. It just says V1. Did I get the right one?
You've got the right one, and it looks good. No, well, okay. All that will happen.
V1s.
Yeah, all that will happen now is my font will look wrong, but that's fine. We can live with that, Tom. It's fine.
Okay.
Let's go for it. Okay. So. Welcome everybody, and thank you for attending. I really appreciate that. Tom, yeah, obviously this is my face, or at least it's a version of my face that I drew to make it, I look a bit slimmer and younger, but fair play. And I've written this book. So Tom, move on to the topics we're going to cover on the next slide, if you could.
Okay, hold on, come on, there we go.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so in a classic presentation style, right? The best presentations of all have 3 sections, right? So this one reflects that principle. I'm going to talk about me, hopefully for less than 10 minutes. I'll talk from my book, and then we'll talk about you, the audience, okay? Very simple structure. That's great. So, Tom, moving on. We're going to talk firstly about me, and then next slide, my career. Okay, so, I've had a career of almost precisely 30 years. And yeah, if you want to send in text to say, I don't look, that on the chat function, I don't look old enough. I do appreciate that. And if I stop getting that, I'll worry. But so please. But I have actually been working for 30 years in industry. For the first 18 years, this was within market research, okay? So a lot of this time was working with clients, talking to clients about their marketing needs and their marketing intelligence needs and addressing those. But also another big chunk of that was developing in terms of thought leadership, what is marketing all about and how can you measure it? Yeah. And part of that was also developing new techniques. Yeah, new techniques and methodologies that reflected the very latest thinking. So that was part 1 of my career. Then I spent another 7 years in marketing. So I became a chief commercial officer and a chief marketing officer for Europe it's still within Kantar. So I was a business to business marketing lead for Europe. So with a budget of about £400,000, so about $500,000, that kind of amount across 14 countries. And then in the latter stages of my Kantar career, I moved into capability development, training, bringing on the next generation of marketers. What do they need to know? How can we accelerate their training and in particular, build their marketing understanding? I also did a small amount of time as a general manager, like a manager, but that so didn't suit me. And okay, fine. You get to that point where you get promoted to a point where you no longer enjoy it. So I moved back down, not back down, but across, let's say. Yeah, you get my drift. Okay, so Tom, if you could move on to the next one.
All righty.
Okay, so in terms of career, that career looked very simple, but careers are never simple. Yeah, and I think the best careers are where you get at some point in your career, you get a breadth of experience. So my career was quite narrow to start with. I moved up in this kind of client service. You can see those roles early on down the bottom: client service executive, client service manager, working with clients, etc., etc., etc. But then later in my personal career, I diversed into becoming a leader, a sector MD, as in managing director of, or vice president, I guess you'd call it in the States, right, of a particular group of clients in the sector. But then I became a global client lead for Unilever in particular, which is a great opportunity. But also I then moved into innovation. So leading the innovation, the R&D of our company, before moving then into a commercial function, which was about, like Tom has already mentioned, marketing and then sales, before eventually moving back into a kind of expertise role, which is about training and development. So the reason I show this, because I think it's really important for people to think about, this looks, I hope it looks a bit like a lasso, yeah? A lasso.
And the Cowboys. Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking Tom, your audience will not remember John Wayne, will they? Well, maybe they will.
Maybe.
You get my drift. I remember John Wayne because I'm that old, and it's like, I think of a cowboy, but John Wayne. I've noticed that I did this map, the map you see now, which is obviously a climbing wall metaphor, right? Yeah. And I find the people who are most successful in the Kantar and research industry business, at some point they have the lasso goes wide, right? And sometimes, like me, it's a more senior career level, and sometimes it's more junior, where they get a breadth of experience across, a few different type related but different functions before they then specialize in a particular area. And I'm a passionate believer in the importance of having some breadth at some point in your career if you want to be really good. So, and Tom, you mentioned, any advice to, people coming into, yeah. So I thought I'd include that. If you could move on to the next one.
Sure.
Okay, this is Mao. This is like me, claims to fame. Okay, right. It's not, I've realized it's not as famous as I thought it was, but the brand Z methodology, which is like a brand equity measurement system that relates right through to brand value, as in the value to a company's share price. Yeah. It's huge in the UK. It's known around the world, but not as much. And it's published in the Financial Times every year, hence the diagram I got here. That's kind of, I co-developed that methodology. So that's one of my specialties, brand equity measurement, right? The second area, market research. So I spent, like I said, I spent all this time. My claim to fame is that I did appear for 2 whole minutes on, I did, on the news at 10 and the news at 6 on ITN. So, that's at least 4 million people who saw me talking about market research. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was around, does anyone remember the launch of the Nintendo DS, I think it was, versus the Sony PSP. Anyway, that's what I was talking about, the head-to-head challenge. And in terms of marketing, I thought I'd share my worst piece of marketing, which was my first piece of marketing was for Millward Brown, as it was called then. And we conducted this big event and publicity around my marketing director is an alien. Okay, fair enough. And I don't want to go into more detail. It's important to say that even if your first piece of marketing is total, can I use cuss words here, Tom? I don't know.
Well, it won't offend me. I hope it wouldn't. I mean, these students have heard cuss words, I would think.
I'm sure they've heard them before. Anyway, I won't use them because I'm very prudish and British. But look, the point is, if your first isn't great, it doesn't matter because they'll get better and better and better. That's what I'm saying. You learn every time. Hence the
truth.
Okay, do you want to move on? Just
sure.
Next slide. So in terms of where I live, this is where I live, right? This is Stratford upon Avon. And the picture you're seeing there, it's not my house, but it is where Shakespeare was born. Yeah, so that's where I live. Yeah, okay. This is like bullshit, and I'm just trying to impress you with a lovely, quaint British scene. I don't actually live there, Tom. Honestly, I don't.
I visited my sister in England. That's what it looks like.
Have you been there?
We were in London a year ago, August.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. Did you make it up to the Cotswolds area at all in the west of London?
We were out in the middle of the countryside in London. So what part of town was that?
Where was it?
I'll remember it. What's it called? It's somewhere in South London. I'll get the town, Dan, and I'll send it to you. But it was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's very rich around that. Yeah, very south of London, very posh, very rich. This is not rich, but it is very historical. Yeah. But of course, you know I'm lying, don't you? I don't actually live here. Who actually lives in a place like this? I don't live here. Tom, if you move on slide, this is where I actually live. Ah, yeah. So
Where?
I honestly do live in Bidford upon Avon, which is just about 5 miles west of, on the same river as Stratford. And it honestly does look like this. It's beautiful. So anyway, I thought you'd be interested. And we do have,
absolutely. This is cool. We like this.
we have lots of swans, more swans than one swan. We usually have lots of swans. And that bridge is from the 14th century.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. It is falling down, so every year they have to rebuild it and try and, build it. They have to find the Cotswold stone again to be. Look, this is not about marketing, but I thought you'd like to see.
I like it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, fine. Okay, but now to the serious business. Move on.
I moved to the next slide. I hope I didn't jump the gun.
Perfect. So, okay, section 2, as indicated by the 1, as you can see on the left, that does indicate that I probably didn't do enough type checking about 3 hours ago. Let's just move on to the next slide, Tom. Right, okay. Now, I think this is a good illustration of marketing, right? This book, the book I've written and I'm trying to publicize, and actually, I guess the reason that Tom, noticed me was because of the Smart Marketing book. And although it is, the marketing line, which I am very proud of, is that it's 25 years in the making, because it is. Because I started making notes, doodles, diagrams, frameworks, whenever I learned something new in my career. I would literally draw them initially in pen and pencil, literally in a notebook, a bit like I'm still using. Much later on on an iPad, with an Apple Pencil. But the reason I did it is because I'm a visual learner, right? And so I like to capture things in a visual way so I to remember them. So that's what I did. But then I realized that actually these doodles, especially if I made them a bit cleaner and better, were really useful for helping to train and educate the next generation, because if they help me remember, then other people who are visual learners like me might find them useful. So that's kind of where it all started. So I kept keeping a record of them, literally over 25 years. So eventually, when I left Kantar, I thought, well, I've got all these doodles. What shall I do with them? And okay, this is a bit immodest, but I'm also quite good at writing. So I thought, why not put the two together into a book, which is exactly what the book is. So there are like nearly 80 visuals in the book, with a commentary that explains why they exist and why they're important. Anyway, that's the book. Now, depending on time, we've still got a bit of time. So I'll take you through just a few of some of my favorite frameworks. But Tom, if I'm overrunning, let me know and I'll accelerate so we can get on to the last part.
You're perfect. Look, this class is 1 hour, 15 minutes long. We never keep the students that long. So as long as we get under, we don't make them stay the whole time, then they'll be happy.
That's cool. Okay. Okay, cool. So if you move on to the next slide, which hopefully will be, yeah. So I'm going to show you, I think it's like 5 or 6 of my favorite frameworks, or the frameworks that seem to have captured the imagination of the marketing community when I've shared them on.
Is this a preview of the 4 a.m. speech that you're going to give in March about your top 10?
Is it 4 a.m. for you? I know.
4 a.m. to me it is.
No, Tom, this is for Asia. Yeah, I will do. Oh, hang on. I will do.
I lost you.
Yeah,
I got you back.
And if not, I'll do a rerun for your students. It's
okay,
fine.
You got it. All right. Well, you're giving us a preview right now. This
is a preview of about.
Also, Doug loved this one.
Yeah,
love this one. Doug,
you like it? Yeah. I love this one as well. This is possibly my favorite because I mean, for years, marketers have talked about the 4 Ps, the 5 Ps, marketing, product place, promotion.
Place, promotion, price.
I've forgotten how can you, yeah, exactly. The point is, these are fundamental things. They're not going to change. They're going to evolve, but they're not going to fundamentally change in what they do. And I tried to put this together to make sense of it a bit more with some of the more modern language, And I think I always found very useful the concept of understanding the idea of brand predisposition, right? So the marketing aspect, mainly marketing, but also product experience that have shaped your opinion of the brand up to this point, brand predisposition. And advertising is one, and all forms, as in paid media, owned media, and earned media, all kinds of promotion, advertising, will shape what you think of the brand. But even more importantly, will be if you happen to have actually tried the brand, experienced the brand or bought the brand or whatever it is, that will shape it even more, as much as, So you've got this kind of brand predisposition. That's one thing. But then the other side of it is whether or not that brand predisposition is going to be activated as people look towards buying stuff. Especially, if you've got a category where people do a bit of research, for example, they will look into the brands, they will read reviews, they'll go into showrooms or shops and they will see the activity, and that will influence them. So you've got these two things that together will determine whether people purchase it. The predisposition before, if you like, before they started the exploration phase, or even if the exploration is just going to the supermarket,
Mm-hmm.
And that will interact with what they experience very close to the actual moment of decision, the actual purchase decision. And obviously, so important for so many brands is it available? If it's not available, unless you love only that brand, you'll probably buy your second choice brand. Of course you will, especially in a supermarket. Who cares? You've got to get the bloody shopping. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. That's fine.
Yeah, I tried to avoid all swear words, but I failed. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's availability and whether or not you noticed it because of the pack, the logo, or whether you were prompted to see it, if it's an in-store thing. These will all interact with your predisposition. So the two together, there are so many different ways people talk about this. Kantar TNS used to talk about brand, what's it called? Power in the mind versus power in the market. Kantar, the Millward Brown side of Kantar used to talk about demand and activation. You can see all the different analogies because they are, most people recognize that these are the two things that kind of multiply. Is that the right word? Yeah, to determine the purchase. And obviously purchase itself is important depending on who the brand is. If the brand is fantastic, that feeds back to an amazing predisposition to buy it again. Yeah.
It's awesome. I love this one. It's excellent.
It's my favorite. It's probably my best thinking, So actually, should we stop now? Because,
keep going, man. There's more good stuff in here. Stop it.
Okay. Move on.
Next one. All right, hold on. There we go. I love this one too.
Yeah, okay. No, I think this one's important, especially for, our, the audience right now, your students, right? Because, decisions in businesses tend to be made by CEOs and CFOs. Yeah? Almost, they're made by CFOs, yeah? The recommendations for actions are made by chief financial officers and then endorsed by chief executive officers. I think that's really important because chief marketing officers in most businesses I've ever worked with haven't quite got the same authority yet as a CFO. Do you see what I mean? And I think one of the reasons for that is because marketing in the past has been seen as a bit of a non-science, a bit of an art, something that you can't quite quantify what the value is to the business. And if you can't convincingly quantify that value, then the CFO is less likely to say, yes, let's invest in marketing. And I think that's fundamental. So that was the motive, right? But behind this kind of diagram, which is trying to help illustrate how the bottom kind of levels, the bottom two levels, I guess, really, of the pyramid, of this pyramid, as I've drawn it, drive really important, from the business point of view, financial metrics of market share, revenue, and profitability, percent margin, that obviously drive the two most important metrics of all, which is, have you got cash flow, money coming into the business, and absolute profit coming into the business, which obviously they're all connected, obviously. Yep. And I think, yeah, Tom, were you going to say something? Yeah,
I think this is absolutely critical that we talk in these terms, especially as marketers, that we don't talk about, we increased our better brand. We talk that this program will increase our profit by this, or our sales units by that. We always tie back to the financial metrics, because if we don't, then they just look at us like the coloring department. Because they took products away from us. They took pricing and gave it to the finance people. All we got left is promotion, to make the ads, or make the, Facebook stuff. It's marketers did it themselves because they couldn't prove the marketing they did move the needle at all. So this is exactly what we have to talk about. These terms.
Exactly. That's exactly the same thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. And it's kind of like, the more that marketing can prove and illustrate the line of, I use that phrase, the line of sight between marketing activity through to financial outcomes, the better. And I think that's both an art and a science that marketers should focus on. Yeah, cool. Okay, cool.
Like that one.
Nice.
Line of sight.
Next slide.
So I hit the next one. All right, hold on, boss. There we go.
Next one. Yeah, I thought it'd be useful to talk about customer relationships, customer experience, customer satisfaction, right? Specific is, especially if any of your students are going to be, maybe their first job might be in a service industry, for example. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I think it's really important to think about actually how it works, because in my book, I talk about how actually the relationship with a brand, for a service brand, tends to normally oscillate, in that okay region. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's all right. The service I've got, it's fine. It's all right. But just occasionally, there'll be a really bad experience, potentially, or a one-off bad experience, right? And if it's bad enough, you might tip them to the left. And if you've tipped them to the left and they're really, again, I'm trying to avoid my British swear words.
Bloody, no one knows bloody's a swear word, Dan, so you can say it.
Well, you say pissed, we say pissed off. Okay.
Oh yeah, we use that here in America. Absolutely.
Okay, fine. I'll use the American version. If they're really pissed with the experience or pissed with you, right, they would go down into the hate thing, and it'll be really hard. Whatever you do after that, it'll be hard to get them back up to wanting to buy you and, use you again. It's really hard, and hence, you've lost them. You have lost them possibly forever in any competitive market, right? However, on the plus side, although slightly less positive, if they have some issue or some request or something they want, and you delight, this is the kind of concept of delight. Yeah. If you delight them, you push them into the love bracket. You see what I mean? And they'll be more forgiving from that point on. So the reason this is important, I think, is that it's important to understand as a marketeer which aspects of the customer experience are pivotal, which are the ones that tip you over one way or the other. The moments of the, people call these the pain points, but that's too negative. It doesn't have to be pain. It can be positive. Yeah. What moments that, if you handle them right, will put you back into the okay, or if you handle them right, will put you into the love bracket. You see what I mean? Yeah. And if you handle them wrong, They might tip you down to the left. And I think that's just, and therefore it focuses you when you're doing market research. And obviously I had a big background in market research, where to focus, understand the pain points, not just the general stuff, the really important stuff. That's kind of the point I wanted to make with this one.
I love this one. First of all, because on the left side, I now hate Samsung for their stinking laptop. My wife bought me for Christmas that it came 1 month out of warranty. It's a disaster. On the love side, 10 University of Pennsylvania Hospital. I mean, the fact that, the head of urology took out my cancerous tumors and I'm now healed. The head of surgery, the best surgeon, what do they call that? When they fly those people in on a helicopter, he's a trauma surgeon. He fixed my hernia. I love Penn. So the ball rolled to the left for Samsung and rolled right to Penn Hospital. So yeah, this works.
And it's important because actually, when you roll the ball either to the left or the right, that leads to advocacy or detraction as well. And those things in the modern day are incredibly powerful because of the power of social media, right? So the more people who get into the love, the more publicity you get, and conversely. So you're right, absolutely. Okay, cool. Tom, do you want to move on to the next?
Sure, absolutely. Here we go. Oh, I like this.
It's my favorite. The reason I like this is, okay, I know it's complex, so have a little minute or two to have a look at this, but I've used this a lot, which is the idea that if you want to come up with ideas that are going to, make your business more effective than competitors, right? You need to come up with great ideas for your, and this I'm reading on the left-hand side, great ideas for your product, your current products or future products, how you can improve your customer experience, how you could think differently about your distribution, etc., 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 etc. Yeah, go down. Now, okay, fine. You could just sit in a room and think about it. And you will probably, hopefully, if you've got creative people, you'll come up with some ideas. Yes, but you're probably going to come up with many more and better ideas if before the meeting, you ask different people, perhaps, to go away and have a look at what's happening in other related things that might be relevant. Just open your mind, think a bit broader, outside your category, outside your country, outside, etc. So all I've done here is listed some of the things that are a prompt, things you might consider to look at and Google around, and obviously visual arts. I'm a big, I'm biased. I put that in first because you can see ergonomics, latest understanding about what makes things really easy and lovely to use. Portable technology is advancing so fast, you need to look at that. App technology, apps are being used in all variety of ways, and that will continue, etc., etc. E-payment, what does that mean? I literally went to Marks and Spencer's, the best retailer in the UK. Well, the most expensive / best quality retailer in the UK. And already
Harrods, no? Harrods.
They're not Harrods. No, Harrods. You can't count Harrods. Harrods is only in London. I live like 200 miles from London.
Okay, yeah, and I know Spencer's and Marks is great because I've shopped there. I bought a belt when I was in London.
Exactly. Marks and Spencer's, yes. For people who would go to Harrods if they were in London. Okay. Okay. So they now allow you to just download an app and you can do the scanning of your own shopping thing, so you don't have to queue. They do it just with an app, which I thought was great. I'm sure in the US you've probably had this for years. Who knows?
Amazon has stores where there's no workers. You just scan your way through.
Exactly. Amazon, the ultimate, of course. They're usually the ultimate in most things. Anyway, look, you can get the drift. And then if you look further right, there is just some other prompts for the kind of areas. It's worth just doing a little bit of understanding about what's happening in those areas, like machine learning, robotics. Oh my God, robotics is just going crazy. And then the last two are not meant to be, the last two columns are not meant to be specific. They're meant to be examples, right? E.g., So, if there's a category that's similar or you think you might learn from, or a country you think you could learn from, it's often Japan because they're often ahead of the rest of the world. Yeah, you get my drift. Yeah, so I love this because it's just a way of creating stimulus for ideas.
It's a great idea generator. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I love this. Yeah,
It is.
I've used it really well in workshops. You know, workshops for clients. Love it. Okay, cool. Can you move on to the next one? Okay. Oh yeah, this one. You know, I didn't realize this was a particularly useful matrix, but the feedback I've had has been really positive. So I kind of feel I ought to mention it. I think what's important about this is like the kind of media that you should choose depends quite heavily actually on a couple of things, particularly on whether or not your brand delivers a really, really good experience or it doesn't. So for example, if you do deliver an amazing experience, then almost automatically, one of the most powerful brand building activities you can do is to get people to try it. Sampling, you know? I'm thinking of Tesla. Tesla is famous for having a wonderful car, you know, a car that when people try it, when people sit in it, and or even better, when they drive it, people love driving Teslas, right? And they rave about it. They really do. That's one of the reasons Tesla's market share has just gone crazy over the last year, right? And I think that they've got their strategy right, which is to say, okay, we've got an amazing experience that a lot of people like once they experience it. So what are we going to do? We are going to allow people to sit in a Tesla car in a lot of shopping malls. Is this the same in the US, Tom?
Yeah, we got, like, for example, there was a Tesla store in King of Prussia Mall, the largest mall on the East Coast.
Exactly. So in the UK, it's exactly the same. You know, my nearest big town after Stratford, obviously, is Solihull, and in their shopping mall, they have a showroom, and they have 3 or 4. You know, it must be, you know, Teslas. You can sit in and you can pretend you're. Again, this is an ageist comment. You can pretend you're Knight Rider. Tom, do you remember Knight Rider?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I would love to have a vote from all your students. I bet none of them remember Knight Rider.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see in chat, you know, put in the chat box or take a poll because I'm running the slide. So when we get done sharing, we'll ask everybody.
I'll ask everyone, do you remember Knight Rider? If we want to bias the vote and get more yeses, I think the guy from Knight Rider ended up on Baywatch, which is a few years later.
Yeah, Hasselhoff.
He is a cult figure in Germany and UK.
You know that?
Yeah, do you know that?
Yep.
Anyway, look.
What's that tell you about the Germans?
Exactly. I can't believe it because neither show was that good, although I did enjoy Knight Rider.
But it was to watch the guys and the gals running around in their bikinis and their Speedos, you know?
No, that's not what I was interested in.
I didn't watch it either, my friend.
No, fine. Okay, you get the drift. Okay, let's move on. Okay, what do we got next?
Should we go to the next slide? This is a great slide. I love this one as well.
The football one. No.
Priority matrix is great. Like, go to the next one. Here we go. This looks good.
Yeah. No, I like this one. Okay. Now, I think it's important because it's clear that media, right, is becoming more complex and fragmented over time. No question about it. There are so many different channels you can use. And I'm doing a lot of work with Lumen, who do the kind of eye tracking to see how much attention you pay and how long you spend on different media, because this is so important. But I think it is useful, even if it's just a simplification, to think of that there are some media exposures that help to build a strong kind of predisposition towards the brand, that make you kind of, you know, and they're the ones where there's a bit more time. They're probably audio visual, like TV, or especially cinema. Cinema is probably the ultimate in brand building, because it's you know, surround sound and a huge screen and no one distracting you. Well, unless you're with, you know what I mean, with someone you're distracted by, you know, and kind of like you've got this kind of, you know, building a brand. that creates demand, you know, and a strong association with the brand, the emotional connection in particular. Okay, there's that. And then you've got, okay, fine. But what about when you're closer to the purchase moment? Yeah, like if you're searching for a brand online and you're thinking about buying it, or you're in the store or coming up to the store, you know, if it's a fast, you know, a consumer packaged goods, for example. And there's so much evidence that combining the two is incredibly powerful. You need both. Yeah, you need to build that predisposition and that empathy and that kind of desire, but not, that's not on its own is not necessarily enough. You also need to trigger it, activate it. All these phrases are the same, really, near to the point of purchase so that people actually buy it. So I used to talk about, I mean, you know, I guess soccer is not quite so big in the US, but I used to talk about Beckham. No, David, at least David Beckham, you played in the States later, didn't he?
We have we got a great soccer club right here in Philadelphia. The Union.
Do you? Okay, well,
they should have won the championship last year, but they choked. So
I know. I mean, soccer will eventually dominate the world. Let's face it. No, and you know, so Beckham would be the guy who got it in the vicinity of the goal, but then in my era, it was Michael Owen, you know, the striker, someone who could just head it home, right? Different jobs, often different media, or at least media used in different ways. And that concept, I would say, is very valuable, very useful. And I don't think that's going to fundamentally change. The exact channels that you use for brand development and activation will change, of course, because media are changing so much. Okay, let's move on. Because
let me ask you this question. Is this also the flip side of the long and short that
yes,
you know, they talk about in England in terms of the long is brand building and short is sales activation? Is that similar? This is what you're illustrating.
Completely that, absolutely that. There's almost not a one-to-one, but almost a one-to-one alignment. Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm moving to the next. Oh, number one,
you again. No, move on. Oh yes, you. That's right. Yeah, I got confused because it didn't say 3, did it? Okay, look, I think I need to accelerate because we're running out of time a bit. But the points I wanted to make here, right, were, well, look, technology has always been a huge driver of business and success, and therefore marketing priority. And I think it always will be. And I just wanted to take a bit of a historic perspective. I won't go through the slide, right? I'll leave it with you guys. Yeah. But
okay.
It is.
I'll share it with we'll share them.
Yeah.
Okay,
again, Tom, you won't have seen this because this is just another thing I've got up my sleeve. But you know, it will always be, and therefore it's important, I think, for any marketer to always be at the leading edge of understanding technology and how it could be used. Yeah, especially more so now than ever. You know, there's no So again, obviously you can see some examples here, but let's move on.
Great. This is a great slide.
I love this slide. It's like I love to go back to 1439. Even better.
I just did a small business marketing seminar, and I love to throw out the Adobe quote in 2015. They surveyed CFOs, CMOs, and VPs of marketing. 76% marketing changed more in the last 2 years than all the years since television began.
Totally. So, because technology, the curve is, exponential, isn't it? In terms of the variety and the new things, it's the same. And if marketing has to follow technology, because technology is usually the thing that helps, either to innovate potentially in terms of delivery, and to communicate. You know, and those are the two main drivers of marketing: innovation and communication. So, of course, technology will always be at the forefront of what you need to keep up with. It won't change.
Well, Peter Drucker said that. That's one of the 2 reasons why business exists: marketing and innovation. Everything else is a cost.
Yeah, pretty much. It usually boils down to those 2. Do you want to move on to the next one then?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh yeah, no, okay. Look, we're running out of time, but very quickly. I don't know if you can see the votes here, Tom, but I would love people to just quickly guess or unmute themselves and guess.
Oh, what? Hold on. I messed up. Hold on.
Go back, Tom.
Oh, there it is. I got it. Sorry.
No, that's good. That will probably accelerate and increase the chances of people getting it right. No, look, the point is,
That was my fat finger, Dan. I apologize.
that's fine. Look, I love going back. I love going back into time. This is a chart from 1700, right?
Wow.
Yeah, okay. It was after when the bridge in my village was built, but fine. It's still old. And then between then and like 2010, it should be. Yeah. I don't think anyone saw that. Come on, guys. Just do a quick chat vote. What do people think this is actually representing? What are these the numbers of? We won't take long. I don't know.
Human beings. Population.
Yeah. No, it's not population, but that's a good guess. I like that guess. Yeah. Any other guesses coming in?
Come on, guessers. Yes. Unmute and guess.
I'm going to take a guess and say that maybe it's an increase in the number of companies and firms that developed in between that time.
Oh, nice guess. I like that guess. It probably is similar, actually. It's not the exact data we've got, but yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Amount of technology available?
Yeah, it's actually very closely related to the amount of technology. It's a consequence of the amount of technology available. Yes.
Is it the amount of ads?
Oh, you're the closest yet. Okay, that's almost certainly right, but it's not technically the correct answer. It's close. It's very close. Anyone else guessing?
Is the right answer on the next slide?
Yeah. You see, they didn't see it. It's fine. Okay.
I don't think we saw it. Let's move to it. Let's see it, Dan. Come on.
Because actually, that was a build towards the correct answer, basically, wasn't it? But it's actually the number of different kind of marketing or communication channels that exist. Yeah. So I wish I could find a high resolution version. I've looked for it many times. So if anyone can find the original, I'd love it. This is the best I've got. But it starts with the printing press. Yeah. The printing press, I think, came in just after in the early 1700s. And the printing press that obviously produced newspapers effectively. That was the first mass media, let's call it, I think. And obviously within a newspaper, you could advertise. So that was the first advertising media. And for quite a long time, in fact, like 50 years, I think it is, as you can see here, that was the only medium. Yeah. And you could see after that, magazines came in because obviously printing became more widespread and you could print, different formats and magazines started to appear. So two media. Okay, fine. You get the gist. And this only goes up to like 2010, right? This is only 2010. I have not seen a graph because probably it's too complex to actually produce of how much has grown in the last 11 years. It's exponential, right? Yep. The variety and number of different media is gone crazy because of technology. So all the answers you just gave are all building correctly to the point. Yeah. Tom, do you want to move on to the next one? And I think that, and the reason that therefore, apologies for the formatting. That's because of the font thing we couldn't quite sort out early on. But the point is, a huge challenge for you guys as you move into marketing, right, is how you can activate a marketing strategy well, given there are an increasingly diverse range of these technologically enabled touch points, digital touch points that will inevitably emerge that will be managed by all sorts of different people and parties. It's become more complex already. It's going to become even more complex if we assume that the trend that you just saw continues, which it probably will. So I kind of like, there's an important thing for you guys. You're starting, I'm at the latter stages of my career. You're at the very beginning of your career. You need to think about how you're going to manage that exponential curve. You're not going to, it's going to become more complex. You need to think, how can you manage that for a career spanning, hopefully, many decades? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Love it.
Do you want to move on to the next one? Actually, to be honest, this just repeats what I've already said this. So let's move on to the next one. Oh, I love this one. Okay. This is some research from, it's called Target Internet. I put the link at the bottom so you can look it up in more detail, right? I thought this was fascinating because what they did, right, is they interviewed people at the left one. I can't, it doesn't seem to say it, but it should say marketing executives, right? As in people in their first 1 or 2 years of their career on the left, yeah? And on the right is the senior guys, the people who've been in it for a decade or more, or 2 decades. And what they did is they asked a whole, I love this, they asked a whole load of questions, like an exam, okay, a test. They asked a whole load of questions related to all the topics around the wheel there. And then they marked them, yeah, against some expert opinion, you know, who set the questions. And they found that the marketing directors only got better, superior answers to the junior marketers on 2 topics. One, and they're basically strategic thing. Digital strategy was a little bit high, yes, digital strategy, which probably was the most poignant thing for marketers over the last 5 or 10 years. They're thinking about nothing else, and just general marketing. But in every other area, the marketing executives, the new guys, which you will be very, very soon, are at least as strong as the experienced people. So in other words, there's no difference between you and the bosses on all these other digital marketing aspects of digital marketing decision making. I think that is really important because when you go into a job, you need to know that you are at least on a par just from your own experience, let alone what you've learned from Tom. You know what I mean?
From college.
Yeah, exactly. And they need your support because they don't understand it. I mean, I'm 51, right? And I know I'm behind the times. And I try to keep up, but I'm well behind the time. If your boss, your boss will be similar when you move into a marketing role. And if you understand it, and if you clued up on some of these areas on the left, you will be invaluable to them, and you will actually be able to drive decision making much earlier than you would probably expect in other jobs. Yeah, which I think is very exciting, but also scary because it means you have to be able to influence your boss. You need to be able to be convincing to them, and which is other skills. But yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, Tom, do you want to move on? Because
Sure.
we've only got left. I think we're nearly there. Oh yeah. This was just a build. This was just a build to say, therefore, and Tom, you've already shared this. I saw you sharing it when.
Yeah, I'll share it. Yep.
Yeah. But it's just to say, the more you can kind of get your head around data and how it's used, the better, because your bosses will not understand even a fraction of what's even on this slide, let alone what's on the builds in the in the detail below. So
I love this one. I saw you published it up in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm happy with this one because if you get this, more than any marketing director out there, almost any marketing director you're going to work with or for. Yeah, exactly. Great. Tom, do you want to move on? I want to quickly get on to, this is more about you now, particularly. I just want a personal point of view. I wanted to just say that if you want to succeed in your career, I'm a big believer in carrying on learning, growth mindset. We weren't taught growth mindset when I was at school, but hopefully you were, and I know that my kids were. The concept of continually trying to develop and being open to new learning, and I've thrown together some thoughts here, some quite famous quotes. I don't think there's any better advice I could give you than carry on learning over the next 10 or 20 years, because I'm still learning. I'm still learning loads. I've learned loads off Tom. I'm still learning every day. And if you keep learning, you will succeed. The people who don't succeed are the ones who stop learning and get bored. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Tom, do you want to move
Growth mindsets, man. We got growth mindsets, we have growth mindsets, not fixed.
Exactly. Growth mindsets. And actually, the doctor, I always like to end on something that I believe in. Dr. Seuss's quote is about growth mindset and about how a growth mindset, what that brings to you, learning what brings to you. The more you read, the more you know. And the more that you learn, the more places you'll go. And for me, that has held totally true. I know right now we don't get to travel around the world at the moment, but in a year or two, we will. And my learning has taken me all around the world and learned more than I could ever imagine. So this is my passionate plea: carry on learning. Dr. Zeus is right, and that ends my my session. Thanks, Tom.
I go to the next slide.
Yeah, now this one, this one absolutely doesn't work with the formatting issues. But
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing, Dan. Okay.
yeah, I'll talk you around it, right? You know,
Okay.
you talk about learning, right? Now, in terms of learning, you will learn from about three sources. There are three kind of places you can learn from, right? One is from the people you talk to and work with and learn from, both from university right now onward, right? And there are lots of estimates about this, but like 70% of what you learn will be from people you work with. Yeah, 20% will become from your own kind of self-learning. You know what I mean? Like looking stuff up, reading books, reading articles, all that stuff. Important. And then only 10% will probably come, or actually these days even less, actually, from formal training that you will probably be provided with. Because that is almost gone from a lot of companies. You know, budgets are squeezed. There isn't a lot of training anymore. So it can mainly come from either you or much more from the people you're with. So the reason I put that slide in, Tom, was because I wanted people to think, when you're making career choices, it's really important to think about who you will work with and whether you think you will gain from them and learn from them, especially early on, not just how much money or prestige you will get from the job. I personally believe that in the long run, the more if you work for someone you can learn from a lot from, especially early on, the prestige and the salary will come in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Whereas you won't get there if you don't learn. So learning doesn't stop at university. It starts there. It gives you that ability to learn. It gives you that desire and interest. And then it carries on like a you know what I mean, like a continuation. I don't know when it plateaus. It hasn't plateaued for me yet, so it's above 51. That's all I know. That's all I know. Anyway, that was my last slide, Tom. So I hope that was useful. I'm sorry I've gone on a bit long, so there's less time for questions.
Dan, that was fantastic. Now let me offer to the students here. If you've got any questions, you can unmute and share it out, or you can go to the chat box and I'll call them out. I don't want to stop the presentation without letting you ask Dan your questions, because not too often do you get someone as incredible about understanding marketing like this special speaker.
Also, Tom, by the way, I'm happy to leave this open for as long as you want, and the chat can come in and I'll respond to them later. So even if we close in 15 minutes, we can carry on, you know?
Okay, well, certainly. I mean, as far as if you're open to hearing from the students, most definitely I will collect.
I'm allowed to go and get a glass of wine because it's like 8 o'clock here. So I can.
Okay, well, go get your wine.
Can I get my wine? If I get my wine, then you can.
All right, I'll keep Q&A open. You get your glass of wine. All right, listen, everybody, if you are finished, you don't have any questions, I'd say you can disconnect and rock and roll out of here. You want to stick around and speak with Dan, he's going to come back and answer any questions you have. So this part of the program, I hope you enjoyed hearing from him. I thought he did a tremendous job. I have about 6 pages of notes. So anyway, you can take off or you can hang around. I don't want you to, here he is. He's back with his wine. What are you drinking? White or red? What are we drinking tonight? Oh, white. Looks like white.
It's New Zealand's Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
The best possible wine, so fine.
I'm a red drinker, so I like red wine and beer. Maybe I'll get my beer. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Dan?
I have a question.
Okay, Brianna, go for it. Oh, I'm sorry, Ray. Who is Brianna? Is that you that asked the question?
No, it's Delaney.
Okay, Delaney, I'm sorry. I'm
It's
looking up
okay.
there. I thought she raised her hands and I'll shut up and you talk.
Okay. So for like post-grad career searching, I've started looking and I found that a lot of positions offered to students that have a marketing degree are primarily sales, and I'm not interested in sales. I'm interested in more of the market research aspects of marketing. So what is your advice on finding like a career within market research for entry level, or like what could I do to become a good candidate for that?
Okay, cool. So like, yeah, so you're interested in market research, the kind of analytical side of marketing, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Who have you directly approached any of the big agencies at all? Or how do you look for jobs typically?
I'm mainly on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all those. I did go to the job fair when it was open like 2 years ago, but I was only a sophomore, so they weren't really offering any internships to sophomores at the time. So, which kind of stunk. But I mean, I've had one internship for market research, and I only got that because I knew the owner of the company. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just kind of, it's been pretty difficult looking for a position within that realm. So I just wanted to know if there's anything I could do.
Yeah, okay. I mean, generally, the general advice for looking for jobs, I think, is obviously networking. I've actually written a new book. It's out in September. I'm not plugging it because it's not out for ages. But I think the idea of networking to get a job is really important. Yeah. So in other words, you kind of, the more people you talk to and make them aware of what you're interested in, the better, obviously. I would also say for market, if you're specifically interested in market research, it is worth like looking on the job boards of the big agencies, and I would recommend the ones like Nielsen, Kantar, Ipsos, and Hall and Partners, because sometimes they have jobs on their job boards on their websites that aren't necessarily always well advertised on those other forums that you just talked about. So
Okay.
I would go through and make a list of probably the top, that's the probably top 4 or 5 or whatever. But in the US, you'll probably have at least 20. If you can find a list of the top 20 marketing research agencies that you're, and then I would go directly to their websites, and even speculatively asking them, as well. Just, okay, they may have a job advertised, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes actually a prompt can get you in on a job opportunity. In fact, weirdly enough, that's how I got my job. But that's a long time, so it's not that necessarily relevant. So.
Okay. Is there, and just one more question, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Anything that within market research positions that they look for on a resume, like specifically?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, for market research specifically, you do need to have a certain level of numeracy. You have to be comfortable with numbers. Yeah. So I don't know how that translates in the US, but you need to be comfortable with the analytics side usually.
Okay.
Unless you're a qualitative job. That's one thing they look for. But they're looking for critical thinking. They're looking for the ability, and more importantly, they're looking for the ability to assimilate different data sources or information sources into an interpretation. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can go, okay, I hear this, I see this, I understand this. Therefore, what this might mean is, so it's that they're looking for that ability to bring together data into meaning. That's the key. I think that's the key. That's one key. The other key is being able to communicate that finding being a good communicator. Because a big part of research is not just the analytics, it's two sides. It's analytics to understand what is happening and what's going on with the data of the marketing. And the other side is to be able to communicate it in a convincing way. So you have to be, they're looking for that as well. Being influential, being a good communicator.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Delaney, there's also, I have a strategy on how you could use LinkedIn to identify people at a company and network into them. For example, to work at an Amazon or a Google. There's a fellow named Austin Belcap who has a business that he teaches people how to get hired by Amazon. I have his materials. I'll share those with you. Send me an email and I'll give you how this is another way of getting around it. When you apply on LinkedIn, it's a disaster. They get thousands of, you don't want to do that. You want to use LinkedIn to identify people working at these companies that you could then follow, and there's a whole process on how you could subtly connect with these people by following them. So send me an email. I'll send you that stuff. Anybody else that wants it, just subject RE, just say Austin. Send Austin's material, and I'll send you all the stuff I collected from him. I have posted some of that stuff up in D2L, like his resume, because he just did a big analysis on resumes. So there's a lot of that stuff. His company's called Cultivated Culture. So if you just look I have posted stuff in the modules on Cultivated Culture.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. So Dan just is taking a 1 minute break.
Tom,
Oh, he's
I'm
back.
back.
He's back. Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Dan. All right. Next question for Dan. Tee it up. Now, Brianna's raising her hand. Speak, Brianna.
I just have a clarification question for the marketing mix eye diagram you showed. Is there a particular reason why brand predisposition is on the top and path to purchase is on the bottom of the eye? Is there does one take precedence over the other?
That's a really good question, actually. I've got a huge echo for some bizarre reason. It's going to confuse me if I don't.
Stop that. It was quiet the whole time.
Wait. Can you still hear me? No? Oh. Wait. How about now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, fine. I just need to move the right machine. I've got 3 Apple devices, right? A big one, a little one, and then a dangling one. Anyway, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. Yes. No, that's a really nice question. I'll be honest with you. The reason for brand predisposition being on the top is probably my own personal bias. Yeah, because I was brought up in a company that focused mainly on brand and the building of brand through communication, which is Kantar. Kantar, in fact, Millward Brown part of Kantar. So for me, I have this bias, which is that the way I think of it, my mental model is you build brand predisposition and then you activate it through availability and point of sale. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just the way I think of it. You could think of it as create a brand that is easy to buy at a good price point and available everywhere, and blah blah blah, and then you build a brand. So no, there's no particular reason. You could flip it the other way and it'd be exactly as valid, I think.
Thank you.
Good question.
Nice question. Yeah.
Who's up? Seamus. Seamus raised first, and I'm coming to you next, Kathleen. Seamus first. Go ahead.
Hi. So I know that you mentioned that you worked for Unilever, which is a big conversation topic in my family because it's one of my dad's clients right now. He works for IRI. So what drew you into like the CPG like marketing rather than other industries?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll be really honest. It wasn't about what drew me versus the needs of the business I was in. Unilever needed people to work on it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Over the years, I've been fascinated. I have not kind of found any sector more or less interesting than another, to be honest, because you go into a new sector, you just learn new things. It's just there are different dynamics, and you learn more about marketing and you learn more about business. So I would say, it was a fluke that I worked for Unilever so much, but I also enjoyed working for HSBC and Vodafone, and others. You know what I mean? And the thing that I personally liked about working for an agency on the agency side, which there are pros and cons always, is the variety you get from an agency side, because you get usually to work for 3 or 4 or even more clients over a course of a couple of years, and therefore you learn more about the whole sphere of marketing. If what you lose out, obviously, if you go into an individual company, you get the depth of understanding of a sector. I personally don't think you win or lose either way. because, you know, but what's kind of important over a 5 or 10 year period to get a little bit of variety. That's all.
Thank you.
And the other thing about careers, again, the job I worked at the majority of my career, I was referred to from pastor of the church I was going to at the time, who was friends with the secretary of the founder of the business they were growing. And so, hey, this guy just got out of LaSalle with a degree in marketing communication arts. And they just started a marketing department. So I started working for the VP of sales and the VP of marketing. That was I didn't care about auto parts. They remanufactured auto parts. Didn't matter to me. They were paying me money. So that's all that mattered to me. Sure, people at night unloading trucks at UPS, that stunk. So yeah, careers are a very funny thing. Now let me unmute.
Exactly. They just evolve, and don't worry about it too much. Just think about what's right for you and how to get a bit of experience and a good experience. As long as you're getting good experiences and you moving around is great. It's fine. Not moving around is also great if you're learning. As long as you're learning, it doesn't matter.
And as you said, I think this is really important. People don't leave jobs, they leave bosses.
Yeah, they leave bosses.
If you have a choice between a fantastic boss and an company and a boss and a fantastic company, pick the boss. Pick the boss, pick their brains, learn everything. And look, your first job is the toughest one. After that, it's easy to move up, easy to move over. You're getting your careers now when you aren't expected to stick around 30 years to get a watch at the end. You run your shows, and that's what's great. So, work for a good boss. I think that helps. Now, Kathleen, I've been talking too much. Kathleen, you take over, please.
No problem. I just have a quick question. So currently, right now, I'm a senior in my last semester. So I'm currently job hunting. I know throughout college, I've been told you should come to interviews with certain questions. You should look into different things in companies. Do you have any advice about certain questions or certain things to look for in a company before going into an interview?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you mean to decide whether they're worth, being interviewed by? Do you mean that? Are they a good company?
Yeah, if it's certain things to ask about before deciding to go into a company to work for, salary, how their ethics in their company, any advice on that to look for?
Ooh, that's a really nice question. I need a few seconds to think about it.
No problem.
Kathleen, I have tons of those questions. If you send me an email, I got tons of them. I'll send you.
Okay.
It's I'm just trying to think of what I would look for. What would I want to answers to? I'm thinking. You want a company that's going places. You want a company that's ambitious. The worst kind of thing is if you go into a company that feels or looks in any way kind of like it's a bit complacent or stale. Yeah, because you're not going to learn much. You're just going to learn about how to tread water in marketing, how to defend a piece of, your share and stop it drifting down, which is fine, but it's not that you're not going to learn as much. I mean, I always think the most exciting companies to work for, if you can find them, are either big companies that are still ambitious and going places, or small, or even better, small companies that are really ambitious and have a lot. So I would ask questions about, what's the growth ambitions of the company? Yeah. How, and things like, how do you see that growth coming? Where do you see the growth coming from? And you'll get a good idea about whether it's credible and exciting or not, And if they give a really animated answer about, well, we think we can grow a lot because of this and this and this, you go, okay, this is cool. This is the kind of company I work for. You don't want a company goes, well, no, you'll just come in and you'll just sort of, you know what I mean?
You charge your widgets, and at the end of the day, you go home. That's it.
Yeah, you don't want that because you won't learn anything because you're just a processor. You might as well be in accounting. If you wanted accounting, you'd have gone in a different degree.
I work on the factory floor making cars because who wants to do that? Kathleen's a creative, man. She don't want to be stuck behind that baloney. Now, the
Exactly.
key thing, Kathleen, is do not work for a company where the CEO does not love marketing and believe in it.
Yes.
Cut to the chase. You know why? Because I've worked for a company like that, and I had to fight my sales force to do this, my marketing team to do that, and then on top of it, my CEO. I had to fight him to do anything. He didn't believe in it, but he hired me to go change the market. It's impossible. CEO must love marketing.
That's a really good point. If they say you have to change the company's whole belief in marketing, it's like, forget it. If it's
another job,
we
work for a
believe,
place that already believes in it.
we believe in marketing because, and we want you to help us. Now that's the company.
Yeah, Kathleen, we can't wait to have you come on board, man. We need so much help in our communications. Look at this baloney. And we know you got the press release. They got Sam Wallace, a newspaper article. Come on, man. Come in here. We need help. That's the company you want to work for.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Are there any other questions here? Because I know we've kept Dan late. Dan, have a sip of your wine. I feel bad.
Well, I've had half of it already, so I'm fine. Anyone else?
Well, at least at this meeting, I don't need to drink beer in my coffee cup. I guess I could go get a can of beer. I mean, it is now happy hour somewhere in the world at 3:15. So
Anyone?
Delaney, Miller, or Shannon, not Kathleen, Shannon with the two names. Anybody else want to throw some questions out there, or we'll just end the session, and then we can connect with Dan anytime in the future for any questions that were not answered. Anybody? Man, this was a fantastic program. So many students dropped in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you. They learned so much. You're awesome, man. I knew you would be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and we'll definitely be in touch. See you later.
See you later.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Oh, wait, Dan, no, don't leave. Don't leave. Stay there. Hold on.
I'll stay. Yeah,
Hold on.
sure.
I
Cool.
wanted to get your picture.
I need to, brush up.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna do this here. Boom.
Am I on which camera am I on?
I got you here.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll smile. Or give a thumbs up.
Hey, hang on. I can't even tell what camera I'm on. I've got
I
all these.
see you.
Right. There you go. Okay, fine. Right, go on then. Thumbs up.
Beautiful. I want to put that up on the social media. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
You're welcome. Good stuff.
All right, Dan. Take care. Wonderful meeting you. I've waited a long time for this. I'm glad Douglas loved the book like he did, man. That was awesome.
Brilliant.
Douglas thanks me every time now that he communicates with me. So thankful you sent Dan my way. Loves it.
Welcome. You're welcome. Okay, good to talk to you. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, Dan. Good night.
Listen, bye. Bye.